Springs community. Thank you for being here. I've got just a couple of announcements, and then we're going to get back into our sermon series about Job. Today we're going to be talking about Job's trials. Next week, well, the week after next, we're going to talk about Job's problem. But before we do that, just want to give a couple of announcements. For those of you who don't know, and if you're not keeping track, our clinic opens up, our free medical clinic opens up on the 19th. It's going to be from 1 to 5. So if you know someone that needs some medical help, they may have poor insurance, they may have insurance that's costs too much to go to a doctor because of a premium or whatever, there is zero cost, no red tape. We have very, very good doctors who've been in practice for years, I say with the doctors that are signing up, it's over 100 years of experience combined, and we have numerous RNs. So this is going to be just like going to your regular medical doctor. So if you know someone, have them come out here on the 19th. It's going to be from 1 to 5, first come, first serve, and we're so thrilled and excited. The other thing, if you haven't heard, that we're doing a fundraiser for the clinic. It's going to be a jazz night out at the Gamber Center. It's a fundraiser. We have tickets available. There's $100 a ticket. That money goes directly to the clinic to help fund the clinic. It's going to be a great night, good food, good atmosphere. Come and have a good time. I have the tickets. And then there's another announcement that I want to make. You know, being servants of God, we have this property, but this property doesn't belong to us. This property is a property that we should be sharing to the community. And we have a group that comes here every Monday. It's called Bright Lights Institute. Bright Lights Institute is a ministry that works with kids with all kinds of dancing and singing, and they're going to put on a big play come this December. And we give them this facility for free. So just last week, I was talking to the owner of Bright Lights, and they want to reciprocate. Get this, church. When I say God works in ways that are just beyond our understanding, that is a fact. So I'm meeting with the owner of Bright Lights, and he goes, hey, look, we want to help. We want to reciprocate. We really appreciate all that you guys do for us, the money that you save us, the friendliness, all these different things. So what can we do? So I go, well, we need some weeds pulled outside. He goes, oh, no problem. So they put a plan together. He came up, he talked to me. So the 3 light posts that's on that side of the parking lot where we really don't use, they're going to yank all of that stuff out and put decorative rock there, so we don't have to worry about it. And then the 3 pods that we have right out front, they're going to pull the weeds, trim out the bushes, going to put down some mats so weeds don't grow back up, and they're going to put some decorative rock right there. And then, well, wait a minute, not yet, because there's more. So they're going to landscape the front of the church, right where the building is. In addition to that, he goes, well, my wife she's one of the officers for the Kansas City Garden Club. And he goes, there's really no community garden in Kansas City. He goes, I'm 90% sure, so I haven't gotten the confirmation yet, but he said he was 90% sure that garden club will come out and do a community garden. They will man it. They will take care of it. They will do everything they need. He said the only thing I would have to give permission for them to do is to put up a shed. Where do we hammer the nails? How about that for the community, guys? So we are in the process of being the missional church that we've talked about. We've got the free community clinic that's open up to this community, but also surrounding communities. We're going to have a community garden that's going to be fresh food, fresh vegetables for the community garden. I am going to be, not promoted, but put on the board of Coldwater to help with that organization as they continue to feed kids outside the walls of this church. That is what the church is about. Last announcement, and I really want you guys to be praying for these guys. We have an actual team of people from New Springs community that are headed to the flood, the hurricane victims down in Houston. They're on the road right now. They're going to be there for an entire week, and they're going to be hanging sheetrock and helping people get their lives back together. So be praying for our team. It's so awesome. I had to get them T-shirts because they wanted to represent New Springs Community Church while they were down there, and they wanted something to wear that had our names on it. So we got them T-shirts, and they're going to be, it's just exciting from where we came from. Give New Springs Community a hand. This is good stuff. Huh? Who went? Well, we've got Jerry went, Marjorie went, Columbus went, Ed, and Jamie, along with another team of about 10 to 15 other people. So it's a nice little crew that's going to go down there and do some incredible things. So I'm excited, guys. Look, healthy things grow. Healthy things grow. If you look at your plant in your home, it's not going to grow unless you pour water on it. It's not going to grow and be beautiful unless you tend to it, and you have to prune it sometimes. We've been through this process. This is the 11th month that we've really started this, and God is doing some incredible things. He's opening up some amazing doors in just a short period of time. So be encouraged, get involved, get excited, because this is just the beginning of what God is doing with this little church community. It's doing some incredible things. All right, Job. Oh man, Pastor, you was all that good stuff, and now we're going to talk about Job? Yes, Job. Last week we talked about Job and what kind of person Job was. And I go back to this, you know, we're having a conversation last week, and Erica said, well, you know, God put Job through that, or allowed Job to go through those things, not because Job just had trust in God, faith in God, but God had faith in Job. And God has faith in you. So whatever trial you're in, God has faith in you that you're going to get through that, and you're not going to curse him and die. But you're going to get through it because you're going to be hanging on to his every word, hanging on to all his strength. Today, I want to talk about Job's trials. You know, so we're breaking this down a little bit to talk about Job the man, how all this started. Today, we're going to talk about the trials, and then in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Job's problem, because there was a problem. And today, we're going to start right with that inner circle. Right with that inner circle. How many of us have inner circles in our lives? All right? How important is it for your inner circle to have your back? How important is it for that inner circle to always be honest with you? How important is it for that inner circle to challenge you, to push you, to hold you accountable? If you don't have that in your inner circle, you need to get a different inner circle. The story of Job is not just about Job. The story of Job is about a lot. Not just God. God's going to show up, and God's going to say some things. He's going to do some things. But it's not just about that. It's about how we can navigate through this thing called life. Because we have a lot coming at us. So I'm going to read something here. I'm going to start here in the book of Job. And I am going to start at, let's see here. I'm going to reread the 6th verse, chapter 1, and I'm going to go probably to the 3rd chapter. Now listen here. This is after Satan comes and he basically challenges God. He puts God's sovereignty. He puts God on trial. He's told God. He says, "Hey, look, you know, you haven't tested Job because, hey, he only serves you because of all the wonderful things you give him. He's a rich man. He's got a lot of land. He's got a lot of money. He's got this incredible family, all because you've given them to him. So those are the reasons why Job has faith in you." Now, he's testing God. God goes, "Hey, go do what you want with him. Just don't kill him." And we're going to pick up here. Verse 6. "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among the Lord and said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it." And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Now here's the challenge. That there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Now there was a day when the sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkey feeding beside them, and the Sabines fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was speaking, there came another and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 groups and made a raid on the camels and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was yet speaking, there came another and said, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their older brother's house, and behold, a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people, and they all are dead, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job arose, tore his robe, and shaved his head, and fell on the ground and worshipped. And he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And all this Job did not sin or charge God with wrong. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came along with them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it." And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason." Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Skin for skin? All that a man has, he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand. Only spare his life." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with loathsome sores, from the sole of his feet to the crown of his head. And he took a piece of broken pottery with which to scrape himself while he sat in the ashes. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast your integrity? Curse God and die." But he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to get to his friends, but I'm going to stop there. This is God's word, and just think about that. Put yourself in that situation. Something tragic happened, and in the middle of you talking about it, in the middle of someone telling you about it, someone else comes in the door with some more bad news. And then someone else comes in the door with some more bad news. You talk about pressure. You talk about, whoa, I can't even put together in my head the first thing that you said. And then you're coming in with more. And these were very personal things to Job. Not just his possessions, but his greatest things, his children taken out. Have you considered my servant Job? Well, there's two things about that. Have you considered my servant Job? God knew who Job was. He knew the integrity that Job had. He knew that Job will always do the right thing. But it's really, really interesting how this story starts to form. You know, Satan, God gives him the ability. He goes, hey, go ahead and do what you want to do, just don't kill him. And Satan, he doesn't give the man even air to breathe. He doesn't give him even one moment to recover from the first tragedy. They're just coming. How many of us can withstand something like that? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've had trials in my life, and dealing with one of them takes just about all the energy I have. I can't not imagine one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. Now, Job did something that we would all do. He, back in their custom, to tear your robe, something had happened deeply, and it affected you deeply. So their custom was to tear their robe and start praying. He worshiped God in the midst of his lowest moments. That's interesting to me, because in our culture, when we are in the midst of adversity and challenges, we oftentimes don't worship God. Oftentimes we start to beg God, take this away from me. Why am I going through this? God, please give me breath. God, please give me a way out. God, this, God, this. The Bible says that Job went and worshiped God. I'm trying to put all this together. I'm trying to understand, wow. He worshiped God. Now, God tests Job by taking away the hedge, this thing that Satan called the hedge, allowing Satan to try Job in a variety of incredible, difficult ways. But God, always sovereign over all things, he limits Satan's authority. And he limits authority over you. We always have a way out when we trust in God. Now, this is something, I've got friends who've lost their kids. I've got friends who've lost a really close loved one. I've lost a close loved one myself. My grandfather passed away some years ago, but he was like my very best friend. He was that guy that made me laugh. I made him laugh. He always had candy in his pocket. And he was the person who gave me all of him. I mean, I have a mother and a father, but he was the one to seem to have given me all of him. Not everything, but all of him. So we're really, really close. So when he died, that affected me in a strong way. Never lost a child. I don't know what that's like, but I have friends who have. I don't know that I could respond like Job responded. Material things, like if our house burned down, I'd be upset. I'd be trying to figure it out, how to get another home, how to rebuild. But I always know that is something that is pointless when in the big scheme of things, right? God didn't allow Satan to just take one kid. He took them all. And he took them all at the same time. I don't know that I could say what Job said. That's unimaginable. All of your kids gone. Job responds with one of the greatest statements of faith in all of Scripture. He says, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job was not a fatalist. He wasn't stoic or a tough guy who could take a punch. Although his pain is apparent by the tearing of his garments and by the emotion of his statements, Job did not charge God. How many of us have friends, or maybe one of us, when something tragic has happened in our lives, we get angry at God? I have a friend of mine I think he's still angry at God. He's angry at God because he lost a loved one. And it's interesting, we don't get angry at God if we lose our car. We get angry at God when it becomes more personal to us, when that one relationship or those many relationships that we have. What does it take to have the integrity and the faith and the character that Job had to say, naked I came, naked I go, God gives and God takes away? That is a strength that we should all strive for, but that is a strength that I know that I may not have. Wow. Profound. Instead, Job recognizes that God gave him everything and that he was the source of all blessing. Earlier in the scripture, it talks about God's sovereignty. And this is something that we in an American culture, and we fail to realize about God's sovereignty. Like if you go over into the Middle East and those areas over there, they understand God's sovereignty. They view God completely different than we view God. In fact, at God's name, they bow down and they worship because of his sovereignty. We here in our American culture, we've taken God's sovereignty away. So then God becomes this genie in a bottle. God becomes this thing or this person that's here to take care of all our needs. Well, that's simply not true. God is sovereign. God is everything. He is on. At his voice, we should tremble. At his name, we should tremble. We should give him reverence in everything we do. And this is what Job is doing right here. He's giving God reverence. He's saying that I understand that I am who I am only because of God. That I have what I have only because of God. We call that perspective. He had the right perspective as it related to his God. Again, I go back to the church as a whole has not been honest with the people who attend the church. God is sovereign. He gives, he takes away. And so after Job is, man, my house is gone, all my money's gone, all my cattle's gone. I'm pretty sure back in those days they didn't have insurance. He couldn't call Progressive or American Family and say, hey, replace these things. Yeah, American Family would be like, you got to wait like 2 years. They couldn't replace these things. They were irreplaceable. And then the children. Not only does he have to prepare for one funeral, he has to prepare for all the funerals. And that wasn't good enough for Satan. That wasn't good enough. You know, Satan's God's adversary. And he doesn't want us to have a good life. That wasn't enough for him. He goes, I need more. I'm going to break this guy. Give me some more. So then he attacks his life, his health. And it was describing about these sores that Satan caused Job to have. And these sores, they itched. They caused him to itch so bad and it's so intense that he broke a pot of clay to scratch himself. Think about that for a minute. You got all these boils all over your body, and they're itching you so much that there's no relief. So there was no hydrocodone back in these days. There was no opiates back in those days. Maybe it was, but not in that form. There was an amount of wine that he could take or drink that caused him to stop itching. This was deep, 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 deep into his soul, so much that he had to break a pot of clay and scratch himself. So not only does he have boils that are causing scratch, he's causing more damage to his body by cutting himself up, trying to get relief. It says here, Job and apparently his wife admirably overcame the first trial by relying upon the goodness of God. But now the second trial comes, the loss of his health, skin or skin. Says the accuser to the brethren, yes, all that a man has, he will give for his life. So God, he allowed Satan to take his health away. Job, at that moment, believed he was near death. And his wife, I want to introduce. Because here's another trial that he's going to have to face. You know, when you get married, you have a covenant with your husband or your wife. And when we get married, we say, through goodness and in health. Through goodness, for the good, for the bad. Healthy, non-healthy. Richer or poor, I'm going to be with you. I got your back. I got your side. Well, the wife was with him when all the possessions were gone away. The wife was with him when all the children got wiped out. And I can only imagine her pain. I can only imagine, because she probably felt that hurt, that pain, a little bit deeper than Job as it related to the kids, because she bore them, right? That's true, guys. You don't know that. Moms have just a little bit more love for them children than we do, because they came out of their body. They have a bond with their children in ways that we can't have that bond. Our bond starts after they're smacked on their bottom and they start to cry. Their bond started from the moment they felt movement in their stomach. There is a difference, and we have to admit that. So her, Job's wife, man, I can only imagine what she has gone through. And so then Job gets sick, and these boils are coming up, and she's watching her husband in agony. I mean, he is in so much pain, and his body is suffering so much that he probably can't even mourn for his family that he just lost. It says here, both he and she believed that his death was near. And now even Job's wife, who apparently exercised remarkable faith in the first trial, suffers a setback. As she watches the persistent suffering of her husband scraping himself with pieces of broken pottery, time and time again with great intensity, to seek relief from the boils, she advises him in a momentary lapse of faith. And she says, why don't you just curse God and die? Oh, can you imagine being on the other end of those words? That person that's supposed to be the closest to you, that knows you, knows your grit, know everything about you, supposed to have your back. Now, I don't know if she said that out of compassion, or if she said that out of anger, or maybe, just maybe, there was a little bit of both. She didn't want to see her husband suffer so much anymore. She thought he was going to die. He thought he was going to die. But then she says the words, curse him. Go ahead and curse him and die. For a brief moment, this woman lost her faith in everything she knew. she showed a weakness that every single one of us has. Go ahead and curse God and die. I don't want to see you in agony anymore. And to be completely honest with you, I am really upset with God right now. But I'm not going to curse him. You curse him. I'm not doing it. You do it. Wow. Wow. But Job, this guy, he really is remarkable like God described. Because if that were me, there's no way I can be gentle. Right? I'm in pain. I'm probably bleeding because I'm scraping myself to death. I just lost everything I have. My kids are gone. And you tell me to curse God? Come on, woman. The Bible describes Job's gentle rebuke of his wife. He was still gentle with his wife because he exercised something that I often lack: wisdom. He indicates that she was not speaking like herself. He responds with another gem of faith. Shall we indeed accept good from God and not accept adversity? Job's faith was not a fair-weather faith. He relied on God in good times and in bad times. His was a faith that endured to the end. Job, again, did not sin with his lips. He didn't sin with his lips. He just told his wife, hey, I understand where you're coming from, honey. I understand. But I will not curse God. I love God. And I forgive you for having that lapse. I probably would have went crazy. I probably would have made my wife cry. I probably would have created more adversity in my life because of my response. Because oftentimes I lack wisdom. Job didn't lack wisdom. He utilized the wisdom and understood the heart of his wife in the midst of his trial. Now, I don't know about you guys, but there's been times in my life, actually, where a lot of things have just happened, one after the other, and there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure on you that you start to make decisions that you oftentimes wouldn't make if you were thinking clearly. Because of the suffering, because of the things that are happening in your life at that particular time, it makes you make decisions that you don't think about, that you don't put the wisdom in there, because you have so much pressure on you. And you're trying to get out of this situation. You become psychotic for a moment. I cannot imagine. I simply can't imagine a person maintaining the attitude in which Job maintained. He knew something that we don't know. What did he know? I think he knows exactly what Erica said. God has faith in me. And as long as I know that God has faith in me, I will never, ever, ever give up. Wow. Job. And in 2 weeks, not next week, because we're going to have some special guests speaking next week, but in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about his problem. I'm getting ready to introduce his problem. Because he has a problem now. He's lost everything. I can only imagine, even though he's responding with the integrity and with the wisdom in which God gave him, but he's a man. And I can only imagine he's sitting there going, man, what is going on? What's going on? Now my wife has lost her mind. So if your kids are gone, your family's gone, your wife is not all there right now, she's dealing with her own issues, who comes up next? Someone said, pick these people wisely. And oftentimes we don't pick these people wisely because we think we have so much in common with them. And we think, oh man, I just love being around that person. Oh, this person's great. And then we call them that one word. That one word, anybody know that word? Friends. Ooh, Lord. There's a saying, if you have friends like this, who needs what? Job again did not sin with his lips. And finally, his friends come with the best of intentions to comfort and support Job in his time of need. Unfortunately for Job, Satan will use them as his last tool to increase Job's misery and to drive Job away from his God. I want to speak about friends for a minute. I'm a person that I'm very loyal. It's just part of who I am. I'm loyal to a fault. And I don't call very many people friends. But the people that I call friends, I have this it's probably just an unhealthy loyalty to them. And oftentimes, I end up with friends like Job. They have the best of intentions, but they give the worst advice. And because you're loyal to those friends, you take that advice and it ends up hurting you or breaking you. You have to really be selective of the people you call friends in your life. People who are real friends in your life can be incredible blessings, and I have a lot of those. I have friends in my life who share their wisdom with me. I have friends in my life who don't care that I have a type A personality. They hold me accountable. I love it. I have friends in my life who hurt when I hurt. But I've also had some friends in my life who didn't do those things. This story about Job is not just about Job. This story about Job is what encounters we have in our life on a daily basis. And these encounters, or these people that we have in our lives, can steer us in a right path, or they can steer us in a course of destruction. But they did it with the best intentions. I love this story. This story is really, really getting ready to get good. Because these guys are crazy. The last part of our series, we're going to talk about God's response. Because just like in Job, just like in all of Scripture, God has something to say about you, about your life. This is the wonderful thing about God, the God we serve, is that He is 100% interested in everything you do. And He's going to show up on the scene, and He's going to say some things that are going to blow your mind. I don't know about you guys, but this helps me for today. Remember how we respond to our spouse. If we're gentle, I got to learn that. If we're gentle, then wisdom can be heard. If we stop and think before we speak, then we can have gems just like Job. I don't know where you're at in your life today. I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know if your finances are crazy. I don't know if you're dealing with health issues. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know if you and your spouse are having issues. I don't know if your kids are wild. I don't know if you're having a great time. I don't know those things. But what I do know is just like Job, God has faith in every one of us. He has faith in us so much that he gave his only son for us. And look, he had faith in Job before he gave his son. There's none on earth like this one, he told Satan. And guess what? Guess what? There is none on earth like you. There's none on earth like you. So I don't know where you're at. I don't know where your spirit is. I don't know if you're up or down. I know this. Just like God knew who Job was, just like God was completely involved in Job's life, God knows who you are. He knows where you are. He knows where you're headed. He wants to be 100% included in your life, whether it's good or whether it's bad. The more faith you have in him, he will demonstrate his faith in you to get you through whatever you need to get through, whatever it is. And remember what Job said, God give it and God take it away. That's giving honor to him and worshiping him in a way that we're just not that familiar with in the United States. Let's go to God in prayer.